Thank you very much.
Then we'll move to what else.
So, thank you very much. I've always had a disagreement with Kojo on the issue of this timetable and the position of ECG in all this. And I'm happy that he had acknowledged that at least when we had power challenges between 2014 thereabout to 2015, I happened to have been part of the committee that was looking and also dealing with load, what they call management schedule. You see, as a distributor, you can have a general outlook and know that, oh, for this month, consistently I was getting X amount of power, which is lower than what I should ordinarily get from my consumers. So I use that as my indicative data. And I then tend to draw a schedule, grouping my consumers into various sections. So that if I know that on the average I've been shedding about 50 megawatts, so I know that I will put my consumers in those sections, so that any time there's the need to shed load, I know that today it is Agbogloshi that I need to put off. Tomorrow, if Grico tells me that I need to shed load, I know that the next time is going to be maybe Malata. And the next time, if they say I should shed load, maybe then it comes to Dansuma. Then maybe it comes back to Agbogloshi. I don't know where I get in the point. So you do that. Now, if in the course of that, assuming that it is the time for Agbogloshi to go off, but we have had enough power to be able to cover everybody, then Agbogloshi gets lice. If it is that we may be shedding more than the amount that what they call Agbogloshi can take, they may add the next community that is supposed to come or go off. So that's how they do it. Now, the argument Kojo has been making, and I believe that he's making this point because that is the concern raised by ECG, that they are not giving enough notice. On daily basis, Gridco by 4 o'clock would have given you a supply outlook. Some of you who go on my wall, you see that I've shared some of the supply outlook on my wall. So they tell you that we are expecting, because usually during the day, Gridco would have spoken to all the generators and know, are you available or you are not available? I get the point. Then they will look at the demand that has been there over a period of time. Then they know that based on this, the supply cannot meet the demand. So I will tell the distributors, whether it is NETCO, whether it is ECG, that shared X amount of power. And then you get it. So they tell you that. The basis for, what they call it, ECG having to give a timetable is that, because we all are facing challenges, isn't it?
Yes.
We should share the challenges equitably. I shouldn't have a situation where consistently, maybe, Alfred, your area will be off and every time my area is on. The only way to avoid that is through a timetable. But because ECG is not, normally when Grico tells ECG that, look, shared X amount of power, and based on the logic that Kojo Poku is indicating, that ECG says, I have PPAs with companies that meet my demand. So on the basis that I'm not going to shed load, then they decide to put all their consumers on. If they put all their consumers on, Gridco, who is the systems controller, will sit down and look at the system and say that, look, my demand is outstripping my supply, and therefore it's compromising my system. And usually when it outstrips it, you then have what we call the national blackout. You know, the whole country goes off. To be able to avoid that, they then will decide to take off somebody, some group of people from the grid.
Okay.
And usually they do not sit down there to tell you that, oh, today Alfred went off. Because for them, they want to provide, they want to protect the integrity of their network.
Sure.
So they'll dump you. So they can dump you today, dump you tomorrow, dump you tomorrow night. That's why you have in an area, you can have somebody having lights off continuously for about 3 days, 4 days. Meanwhile, another area, you are having this. And that is what Gridco wanted to avoid. And that's why he did this. But quick one. The lack of supervision from the ministry, because in all this, in the ministry superintend over these agencies, you have a crisis. Usually what you will expect from a sector minister is to call all the agencies involved in that crisis to come and sit around the table.
And are you saying that is not happening?
If it is happening, they will not be reporting. If it was happening, and then usually you will have a picture of what the problem is. Then on the strength of that, you give directives as to how the agency should behave within the crisis. The fact that you have Gridco writing to the minister that this is the problem, tells you that they have not sat down to have a conversation. That's the point. And so, if you see the situation, and then the point he makes about the fact that ECG has a concession with, or maybe PPAs with other what they call IPPs, and from their PPAs they know that they have enough power to meet their demand. The truth of the matter is that the fuel situation that we have has hit mainly the what they call the IPPs. And when I use the word because they do the thermal. For Akosombo, sorry, when I use Akosombo, I mean VRA. Yes. VRA does not have PPA with any distributor. Indeed, it is one of the problems VRA has always had. They do not have PPAs with any distributor. So on the basis of that, I mean, we're in this crisis, we are depending heavily on VRA because of the dams. Look, VRA had projected that by the first quarter of this, this year, they were supposed, Hydro was supposed to contribute about just 62% of their total, supply of power. So, because they have both thermal, solar, and they have solar, thermal, and then hydro. And so they said that, look, based on our own projection, by the first quarter, hydro should constitute about 62% of the total power that will supply into the grid. Do you know how much they have done this as the first quarter? 75. The reason why they are doing 75 is because of the fact that they are forced to generate more power coming from the hydro. So ECG cannot sit down and say, because I have PPAs that cover a number of plants, therefore I know that I have sufficient power, so I would not shed load. That is simply a very erroneous conclusion to come to. But to come to the Nana's issue, because I just wanted to address his case, to come to the Nana's issue, respectfully, I think that I heard him. He said, look, because we are not being able to handle some of these things, VRA, other things should be sold out to private sector or given out to private sector to manage. Look, my brother, well, there's a reason.
Permit me, before you go on, I've just got this reminder, and it's important, because the last time you were here in the studio with Kojopoku, right? The last time you were here. And I asked a question about any indication of when this was going to end. Kojopoku had indicated that, Kojo, you said that you were privy to some conversation that suggested that by the end of the month of March, this whole power situation, the Dumso and all of that was going to be over. I recall that because I asked you that question in the studio 3 weeks ago when you were here. We're still experiencing these power outages. What's happening? Where did you get that information from? On mute for me. On mute.
Hello. I have not muted.
I'm hearing. I'm just going back to that statement you made.
Is that the people sending you those text messages have been going around following me on every interview trying to get that question. Look, I'm not a government appointee.
But you are a member of...
not even any... Oh, hold on. Let me land, please. I'm not a government appointee. I can only talk about the information I'm privy to. And as the chairman of a manifesto committee, what I am looking at is professing solutions for future, not for current. So yes, I am privy to certain conversation. There was meetings in Bukias, in the Pediasi. There was meetings the following Monday. There have been subsequent meetings by the ministry and the presidency. And the assurances that have come out is that they put measures in place and the situation is being resolved. Look, by and large, the situation has improved. It has improved. I don't think anybody would say that.
You didn't say the situation was going to improve. You said it would end.
Well,
that's
yes,
what you said.
I know, please, I know what I said. I'm not walking it back. I'm telling you that I am not the guy sitting on the chair. I'm the guy who just hear and privy to conversations. So if based on the conversation I know, I say that we will not enter May. Sorry, we will not enter April with this situation. And we are still in it to an extent. But a much improved situation. It means that it's a progress, it's an ongoing progress. Okay? So look, the point that my brother made.
I just wanted a quick response to that. So just to put it in perspective, that the statement you made is not a reflection of the fact and the reality that the people are faced with right now.
It's not entirely true. Alfred, I don't like when you put words in my mouth. It's not entirely true.
No, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm only saying that you said the situation was going to end. We're experiencing it right now.
Some people, in much areas, the situation has improved. It's only a small area that we have a few. Look, 3 days ago, we had a trip at the Tema. Hold on.
Kojo, if you say it's a small area, what do you mean?
Stop that. We all have
Small.
What
do you mean?
Let me When you ask a question, let me land, please. 3 days ago, I have always said that we have a mechanical, electrical that we are managing. When you have a moving process, anything can happen. Look, 2 days ago, there was a trip in Tema. When these things happen, things can happen. So look, yes, there are challenges that were in the system, improved massively. Then every now and then, you still getting 1 or 2 problems that happen, which is creating a few pockets of problems. But it has improved much. It has improved massively. Okay, so I'm saying that some areas are having.
Kojo, well, if you say it's improved massively, on what basis? Because I'm talking specifically based on the experiences of the people. So if you're saying this situation has improved, where's the data?
Yes, but
where's the data?
Of the people is that look, Alfred, I am on about 18 regional platforms. 18, which is almost, I can say that on terms of the party platforms, because I went around and campaigned, I still keep the campaign platforms that I'm on. On these platforms, when the lights start going off badly in those regions and those areas, everybody complain on those platforms. And the reason how I gauge it is the complaint of light outages on these platforms. And I monitor my WhatsApp greatly. And I'm saying that pockets of Greater Accra, by large, is where the problem is in the last week.
No, well, that's
I'm
actually,
sure that one is being looked at.
Well, I tell you what, that's not the case. Not just pockets of Greater Accra. Before we went to bed last night, areas like Koforidia experienced power outages. We had information as well, some parts of Western region. Also, we got information from areas in Central region as well. So because you have indicated that if I hold you to strict proof on some of the things you say, you tell me that you are not a government appointee. So I'm not going to.
I don't have a problem with that.
But I'm just telling you, there's not a Greater Accra problem.
Well, I don't have a problem with that because by and large, you know that there's also localized problems. So the localized problems are there. So by the fact that lights go off, people should understand that lights always go off in Ghana. I've always said this. So they are localized problems.
But, okay, Mr. Bawa, you know what?
Instances where there are challenges that manage, which is the lowest.
Okay. You see, this thing about localized fault, let's not deceive the people because if they know if it's a localized fault or not, what is happening does it constitute
are you saying that localized problems?
So could you hold on a bit for me? Yes.
So you see, usually because the energy sector looks a bit technical, people are always confused with terms. Localized problem. This is just this, that. Look, localized problems cannot permeate all over at the same time. Localized problem simply means that, like, for example, in my neighborhood, my transformer is messed up. And so the load on that particular transformer would have gone off. And ordinarily, with localized problems, unless it's a very major one, within 30 minutes, because you normally will have teams, they have their operational teams that go around. You normally will have between 30 minutes and 1 hour, they will have resolved it. You cannot be telling me that a greater portion of the country, or maybe let's even say a lot of areas within the country, not even just in one area, suddenly all will have localized problem that will expand to say, let's say about 6 hours. I mean, it tells you that basically it is not the issue of localized problem.
I see.
2, you see, when the last time I came here, when I was drawing the attention that, look, because it is finance, the challenge is that government has other competing needs. And so that one, 1st April deadline, or maybe the end of March deadline that was given, was being too ambitious. Because I didn't know where they were going to get the money from. Particularly at a time when ECG itself had become so indisciplined and was not making the cash waterfall mechanism work. So I was wondering where this was going to come from. And we have been proving right that, look, we still have this load shedding going on. So I empathize with him. You see, All their people, all their people have run away. They don't talk again. He's the only one who goes around talking. The reason why he's the only one going around talking is because he is desperate to see his presidential candidate win election. And he wants to see how to diffuse this. But the people who really are in the sector have all decided not to talk. The only time the energy minister decided to talk, he decided to insult Ghanaians. That's the only time. Because he simply cannot address the issue. And all of us know what the issues are. The PRC's document that has come out even makes cases even worse. Then you have a situation where a state distributor of power can look into the eyes of Ghanaians and lie.
Okay, but
so I'm just because we have not come there yet.
Yes.
But I'm just trying to say that basically Kojo Poku was being too ambitious. All of us make mistakes in our targets, and then he should accept that. I mean, his deadline didn't meet, or maybe he was giving wrong rapport. And so the wrong report that they gave him was what he came and said here. So, I mean, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, but Kuka, on this Otunfo's proposal, you were going on that path before I heard.
Sorry.
Let's move on.
Can I quickly? I'm not desperate for my candidate to win. I know my candidate is the best candidate Ghanaians are going to vote for.
Okay.
So I'm not desperate.
Right.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, so the Otunfo's thing. So back to the Otunfo's case. You see, I was saying that the whole idea of bringing the private sector into into the space, into the energy space, has been something that has been conceived even during the 1990s under the power sector reforms. So everybody understands that. But it is also important for everybody to also understand that the state must have a role to play in that. And not only on regulation, but as a participant within the sector, if for nothing at all for national security issues. Can you imagine that you have all your generating plants, everything in your sector in the hands of private sector? And most of it are not. This private sector, yes, you can have Ghanaians, but you can also have foreigners. Can you imagine what will happen if one day they decide to hold you hostage, that they are not going to generate power? How are you going to get power? So for national security issues, what was said was that, look, yes, let private sector play a role, but whilst they play a role, let the state also play a role. And that's why VRA and, for that matter, other agencies are playing those roles. And I respectfully disagree with the king when he says that things like VRA and other things all should be given to the private sector. That will be suicidal. And there's no country that will advise you to do it. That's the first thing. Two, the issue of GridCo. Issue of GridCo cannot go to a private sector. You see, and there was a reason why GridCo was taken out of VRA. You are the state. And because you are the state, you will have to sit there and control all the various systems. So GridCo, and the reason why they took GridCo away from VRA was that VRA was the one doing the transmission. So they realized that will not bring competition into the field, because VRA was a player, and again, to be a transmitter. So assuming that they were supposed to transport power, they are supposed to transmit power to, say, a distributor, a bulk consumer like ECG. The truth of the matter is that VRA will want to dispatch its own power first before they go to the private sector to do, because they are the one controlling it. So as part of the reforms, that's the World Bank, the power sector reform that was supported by the World Bank. They said that take at VRA, GridCo, and let it be independent, but controlled by the state. But now they gave a guideline as to how they dispatch power. And the way they dispatch power based on economic basis. The cheapest first, in a way to ensure that the end user also has cheaper electricity or affordable electricity to me. So VRA, GridCo then sits down and operate and then dispatch all the power, both private sector and government sector. But there's a format. It's not based on their whims and caprices, but it's based on the cheapest power that is dispatched first. So that's a format. So let's not contemplate even the idea that private sector should come and control our national transmission system. No, that is a very dangerous thing. So I agree that private sector should play a part. And I'll give you a typical example of where this thing is working. Under the NDC, beyond just the compact that came, that the MPP came and bastardized through the PDS, you've heard of Enclave Power. Enclave Power is a private sector distributor. And their duty is to distribute power to the free zones board, the free zones area. So all the companies under the free zones area are not hooked to ECG. They are hooked to Enclave Power. And Enclave Power is a private sector organization, distributor. And this was one of the things that the NDC was planning to do. That look, beyond just the private, what they call PDS coming in, gradually we're going to have competing players within the distribution sector, such that, like if you go to, say, the US or the UK, I can choose today that I'm using this distributor, and tomorrow, because their services are no good, I switch to another distributor. And that is the plan that the NDC did, and we started it with the Enclave Power. And you can see that in all these conversations, Enclave Power has never had an issue with us, because they are running their thing and they are being accountable for the power that they give to us.
I see.